So, Trypanosoma, really cool protozoan. So it's a protozoan. It's a mastigophora, so it's flagellated. And there are two species that we're going to talk about. One species is Trypanosoma cruzi. So Trypanosoma cruzi, and it's interesting, those species have a complete geographic isolation. So T. cruzi is found in Central and South America only. Can be found a little bit at the southern border of the United States, surprisingly mostly in dogs. So there's no human-to-human transmission.
What if a lot of South American countries eat dogs?
No. So dogs can be infected, and you will see how they can be infected. It's kind of an interesting story. But what I'm saying is, there is an active transmission to humans by, well, transmission triatamine kissing bug. So this is what happens when people sleep. Usually for this you need a roof. I think the term is thatched. So not like a solid roof, but like paper and yeah. So bugs live in that roof. They fall on people deliberately, and they take a bite either in the corner of an eye or corner of the mouth, because it's very thin skin. So they take a blood meal, and they're pretty substantial bugs. This is why they're called kissing bugs. They take a bite, then defecate into the wound and walk away. The feces contain Trypanosoma cruzi. When people wake up, they start to scratch because it itches, and they basically scratch it in. So this is how microorganism gets into the blood. That makes sense? Now, dogs acquire differently. Do you have dogs? If they see a fly, what do? Try to catch it and eat it. This is how dogs get infected. They catch those bugs and eat them. And interestingly enough, humans can do it too. In Brazil, one of the popular drinks is like a little alcoholic, non-alcoholic cocktail that involves sugarcane. They squeeze the juice out of sugarcane. Well, guess what? Those triatamine bugs can be in that sugarcane. Sometimes they end up, in the juicer. And people end up, it's not a main route, but people may end up getting infected by accidentally consuming that juice. So, symptoms, splenohepatomegaly initially, but one of the most enlarged spleen, enlarged liver. Okay. Yeah, you have splenomegaly, hepatomegaly, fever, all that kind of stuff. You feel like crap, okay? But one of the most interesting long-term consequences in a chronic disease with T. cruzi is megacolon, megaesophagus, and myocarditis, because the microorganism loves to infect muscles, especially smooth muscles and cardiac muscles. So myocarditis results in a heart failure, megacolon results in a constipation, depressed peristalsis, and megaesophagus, inability to swallow. Okay? Now, what about second one, which is T. brucei? Trypanosoma brucei is found in Africa, mostly sub-Saharan Africa, so south of Sahara Desert, transmitted by a sandfly, which is pretty substantial fly, okay? No, sorry, not sandfly, tsetse fly. Sandfly is leishmania. So tsetse fly are pretty big flies, and they take like bites like this. Basically get the part of a flesh out, okay? Really, really painful bite. The disease is African sleeping sickness. If it's left untreated, it's a progressive multi-system organ failure, very slowly. People with African sleeping sickness develop lassitude, lethargy, bless you, and eventually they basically like slide into apathy and sleep and die. Does that make sense? Generally speaking, this disease kills faster than this one. Both of them are lethal if untreated. Okay? Now, it's interesting that you can treat both Chagas disease itself, Chagas disease, or African sleeping sickness. You can treat Chagas disease or African sleeping sickness with drugs. Am I clear? But treatment is never considered sterilizing, which means you always consider to be positive. So anyone donated blood? Yeah, so when you answer those questions, there are 2 questions on the questionnaire. Did you ever have African sleeping sickness? Did you ever have Chagas disease? If you answer yes to either of those, you are deferred forever. Make sense? And actually in the United States, you probably won't find, so this one, very unlikely. Very unlikely. This one you can, especially if you will practice medicine in the southern states. When people immigrate to the US from Central America or South America, many of them are infected with T. cruzi, okay? But we don't have a vector here. We don't have triatomine bug. So they don't transmit it. But often it is detected, a person goes to donate blood, they test and they call them and say, dude, you got to get treated. Make sense? What I like about those 2 infections, it shows you how the range of a vector defines the disease. There's no triatomine bug in Africa. There's no T. cruzi in Africa. There's no tsetse fly in South America. There is no Tuberculi in South America. Neither of those vectors are in the United States. Neither of those diseases are in the United States. That make sense? Questions?
So the only way that human to human can transmit those is by blood?
Well, blood donation or tsetse fly, especially tsetse fly, not so much these ones.
Just like human to human, like to infect another human, if you have it with blood.
You can get Tuberculi biting an infected person and then biting a non-infected person. But for Tuberculi, one of the reservoirs is cattle. So even if you treat all the humans, you're still going to get transmission from cattle. But yeah, from human to human in the US or anywhere else, blood donation. It was a huge problem down in South America. They had outbreaks, and then they developed really interesting, they used some stain, can't remember from top of my head. So it's absolutely benign for humans. You can add it to the blood and then transfuse this blood. But you add it to the blood, and if it contains T. cruzi, the blood turns blue. And you can get rid of this. And if it doesn't, nothing happens, and you can still transfuse this, which was kind of cool. Okay. Make sense? Any questions? All right, I'll see you on Thursday.